What is going on, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Uncensored Critic podcast. Thank you once again for joining me for another very special episode. I really appreciate your support. And we are joined today by another very, very special guest and yet another member of the GSA family. This could be called the GSA podcast at some point. There's so many people on, but hey, I'm happy. So today my guest is the wonderful Katie Crooks. And let's take a moment to introduce Katie. I first met Katie a few weeks ago at a careers event at GSA, and she, like myself, trained with the wonderful Chris Palmer, who's also been on the show. Katie went to GSA and since has gone on to be a hypnotherapist with an extensive background in theatre, voice, and performance, who helps creatives such as actors, performers, dancers, anything in the creative industry, heal fear, anxiety, and mental blocks so they can get their voice back and show up as the artist they were truly meant to be. With 3 degrees, that's 3 degrees from the University of Exeter and of course from GSA, plus a hypnotherapy certification, she is an expert at transforming self-sabotage and limitation into inspiration and freedom. She has a unique gift for guiding people in their craft so they can access their inner well-being and connect to their deeper creative self. She has a wealth of experience and as a voice coach, having taught singing and speaks to professionals in the industry for the last 20 years. She also has an abundance of experience as a singer, actor, musician, and voice coach, combined with a passion for unlocking blocks at a deeper level than just the mechanics of the voice and performance. And if that's not enough, she also has her own swing band. And I'm sure you can be able to catch clips of that on YouTube and on her website, which is in the description down below. So yeah, that's
wow.
You're like a superhero for actors in a way.
That's the first time I've actually heard anyone read that testimony, that bio back, and gosh, it does when you take stock about what the things are that you've done. It's quite empowering for one. Actually, we were just talking earlier, weren't we, about how the difference between arrogance and self-assurance, and how and it's a completely different thing when you're self-assured and you say, right, I've got this background, I know what I'm doing, but I'm a long way from perfect because everybody's got things to improve on. That's self-assurance, not arrogance. I think arrogance comes from insecurity, but self-assurance comes from a knowing that we all love engaging with our creativity and finding ways to make that happen. And it's okay to say, yeah, I do this.
Yeah, of course. You don't feel upset about that at all. I'm not saying you are, but it's fantastic what you've done. So
Yeah.
I always, to begin at the beginning, as Dylan Thomas says, where did, because I know you started off at Exeter and you did a degree in music and things like that. So where did I know we've got 2 aspects of it. We've got the arts and we've got hypnotherapy kind of intertwined in one, but where did the inspiration to be an artist or be involved with the arts, where did that come from?
Oh my gosh. From as long as I can remember. My first knowledge was when I was so little and my father was rehearsing a choir. They were doing a piece of Bach and Beethoven, the orchestra came up with this music in between. They were rehearsing the bit in between and I just leapt up. I was probably about 3 and just went, dance, daddy, dance. I had to move to music. And so it was, I think you can probably relate to that innate need to be creative, to have something come from us and through us as an artist. So Exeter University was great fun and I always knew I wanted to do music. I was terrible academically, I'm ADHD, but I knew that I wanted to do what I had to do in order to get where I wanted to be. All I knew back then is that I needed to do something to do with music and performance. I just didn't know what. So I went to university, did music, and then did as much performance as I could, physical performance, which during an academic degree is not so easy. And then as soon as I finished Exeter, I just fell straight into teaching singing, which was amazing, a brilliant experience. But I mean, the first few times I went into a singing lesson to give a singing lesson, I had no idea what I was doing. I was learning completely off the cuff, just doing what I'd been taught.
Yeah,
it taught me a lot. So that's the beginning.
So am I right thinking you play the piano as well?
Yeah, I play for my students.
Oh God, that's one thing I really want to. It's on the bucket list to learn the piano at some point.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
You just have to do little and often, like with anything. you're in this, the hypnotherapist in me wants to say that you're creating neurological pathways in your brain. So every time you practice a scale, those neural pathways strengthen, and then your finger patterns and your muscles get stronger, of course.
Yeah.
But it's all neural pathways that you're developing in your brain. So you're strengthening the ones that you want to by practicing little and often every single day. It's the same with acting. It's the same with singing technique. All of it, you know.
Yeah, I read somewhere that if you want to try and break habits, that you've got to like practice breaking those habits, and then you're actually kind of rewiring your brain to sort of leave those old habits behind. You know, is that a credible thing?
Yeah, 100%. And in terms of thinking habits as well as physical habits, what we're doing with, certainly with hypnotherapy, is you're effectively putting a roadblock up in front of the old neurological pathway and re-diverting your brain to a new pathway that you want to have.
Mm.
So if you have a habit of waking up in the morning with negative thoughts, then you want to put a roadblock up and start to steer that away. And there are so many different ways of doing that. That's one of the things we do in hypnotherapy. But that's also the reason why I interrupt people a lot during conversation, because if someone's talking about their problem and saying, oh, and this happened and I think it was this, what they're doing is strengthening the neural pathways in their brain that they don't want. And I'll say, stop, hang on, I'm just going to re-divert you. How would you feel if you did blah, blah, blah instead? Which can get quite annoying for some of my friends. But I'll tell you actually a non-hypnotherapy trick,
Yeah.
which, there's so much crossover. I think you can't put hypnosis in a box. There are just so many different aspects of what we do. But James Clear is a writer and an inspirer, and he talks about habit stacking. One of the best ways to break an old habit is obviously to replace it with a new one. But what James Clear suggests is that you stack a new habit onto a current habit. That's a really powerful thing to do. So if you want to start flossing your teeth, floss your teeth immediately after brushing your teeth, and then you're stacking the habit onto the next one. So yeah, you have a
Fantastic.
lot of fun with that.
So that brings me on to part two of sort of beginning of inspirations. Where did the need to become a hypnotherapist, or the need to help others, where did that come from?
That came from, if I'm really honest, probably the first week of teaching singing in a practice room with students who were so terrified of saying boo to a goose. They couldn't open their mouth to sing, and I was thinking, this is crazy. What is this cultural thing we have in this country, in so many Western countries, where people are so afraid to share their voice? And I knew from almost week one that something had to change with these people, psychologically, emotionally, in order for them to feel comfortable sharing their voice. Because I was creating hopefully a safe environment where they felt that they could use their voice, and still they were stopping themselves. So I knew back then, and I started to get interested straight away. But then it was my own journey, a few years, probably about 3 or 4 years later, where I decided I wanted to further my training. So I started auditioning for drama schools in musical theatre. That I realised my own mental hang-ups were holding me back. I didn't look into hypnotherapy then. I did that MA in musical theatre, got an agent, did bits and bobs, did a few shows, did lots of auditioning, realised it wasn't me, and then came back and did a second MA in voice. By this point, I understood a little bit about the subconscious mind. I'd read a few books, and it was at the end of my voice training with Chris Palmer that I started to then get jobs teaching spoken voice alongside my singing teaching, and I was doing all this relaxation work in the studio with these actors, and they were going into these deep places and these guided visualizations where we were focusing on unlocking the body, or imagining your voice like as if you're colouring it in, that exercise, the colouring in the voice, and all of these exercises. And I thought, there's something deep happening here. There's some shifts happening. And then quite a few times, students afterwards would say to me, have you ever thought about becoming a hypnotherapist? Because that was really relaxing. And they would say things like, Katie, can we just record your relaxation session this week? And I was thinking, oh, there's something in this.
Opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. An opportunity to actually help people on a deeper level than just fixing the mechanics of their voice.
Yeah.
Because I started to realise that every time someone came into a session, whether it was a group practical voice session or a one-to-one singing, that their physical difficulties with their voice, the muscular difficulties, were almost always down to some kind of emotional or mental block. For example, if they walked into the room with their sternum collapsed and they were straining like this, then I could almost put my money on the fact that something had happened that week. And quite often we'd be halfway through the lesson and I'd say, it's not quite shifting how I want it to shift. You keep dropping into this posture. I said, what's going on? Has something happened this week? And that would usually cause them to go, oh, my grandma died, or my cat died, or this happened. And I started to realize that I had to hold space for people in a different way in their lessons, and be really mindful of how their mental and emotional journey was influencing their vocal setup. Postures one, tongue tension is a classic. You know, if we stop ourselves crying, then the tongue tenses, and when the tongue tenses, the thyroid cartilage can't shift into cry position or head register. And when it can't go into that place, it's very difficult to find the upper registers generally in your voice. And so I thought, well, I can either teach them how to stretch their tongue out, or I can help people release the emotion that was causing them to grip their tongue in the first place. And I realized that was going to be a far more efficient way of helping people with their voice problems. So there are lots of different kind of lights going off, guiding me towards hypnosis. And then it was my own emotional journey when I had a painful breakup, as we've all experienced in life, quite a few years ago. And, you know, at the time my life felt like it had fallen apart, but it was the best thing that happened for me, because it put me on this journey of self-discovery, self-growth. And I started to learn that the reason I attracted dramas in my life was because of my own subconscious beliefs about what I was worthy of. So there was that work as well as the voice work. And it was as if every single signpost in my life was going, come on, woman, this is what you're meant to do. You're meant to be helping artists take down the mental, emotional blocks. And even on a spiritual level, helping them really unlock what their soul's purpose is. You know, that's becoming really transparent the more I do this work. That was a lot of me talking.
No, it's great. I love hearing you speak. It's great. Yeah, I resonate with that a lot. You know, just even being on the acting journey, just in general. You know, I remember thinking, you know, getting stuck in this silly thought pattern, thinking, oh well, you know. And I think we talked about this before we were discussing the questions for today, but I have a very strong hatred of the phrase, and I'm going to say it. Proper job.
Proper job. Oh.
Yeah, proper. P-R-O-P-E-R. Yes.
Oh, yes.
God, just when I vomit.
Yes, well, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so when you first said proper job, I'm from Cornwall, and down in Cornwall we say proper job to everything.
Yeah.
So when you said, I thought that, yeah. So there's a reframe for you, and that's the hypnotherapist in me going, oh, a little reframe, so that you can have a different emotional charge to the phrase job.
Yeah.
So
lovely beer.
There you go.
I have to say.
Say that again.
It's a nice beer as well. It's a lovely bitter you get down in Cornwall as well.
That's right. That's an Austell brewery or Tinners anyway. So yeah, a proper job. You know what? You've probably heard this, right? If a lawyer is a lawyer,
yes,
and they're not working, they're still a lawyer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I got caught in this mindset. I remember going, I still don't know why I did this. I think I've talked about this on a previous episode, but I went for an interview for this IT company. This was about a few years ago now. Don't know why I did it, but I just got caught up in this thing of, oh, well, let's see what the real world is like.
The muggle world.
Exactly. But I remember just sitting on the train and getting into London, and I was sitting on the train and my instincts were just saying to me, what are you doing?
Yeah, been there.
What are you doing? And I was just like, yeah, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I got to London. The interview was a total car crash, thankfully, but I didn't want to work there. I walked in the office, it was almost like someone just stuck an emotional or energy vacuum in the middle of the room, and it was just on the whole time, and just the energy sucked out of you the whole time. And I was just like, yeah, I don't want to be here right now. So thankfully the interview was a complete disaster, and just walked straight out the door. And I thought, I'm never ever doing that again. And just, I
Good
know
for
what I want
you.
to do. So, yeah, and
There is
it's so,
no
yeah, sorry.
there is no such thing as failure. There's only feedback, right? That experience in the office
Yeah.
told you exactly what you needed to know at that point in your life so
Mm.
that you could change direction and move to the thing that you are meant to be doing that you know in your gut and in your heart.
Yeah, heart, gut, and soul were just saying to me, Ollie, come on, mate. Come on, mate. This isn't you. And
Exactly the same thing. The energy in those places just they're like energy vampires just suck you of
yes.
and it's because you're not in alignment with what you're meant to be doing. When you are in alignment,
Mm,
you're there's something I don't know, we hold ourselves differently, we breathe differently. I swear our heart beats differently. We just everything about us is you can tell, can't you, when your energy goes up, it's as if your inner voice, your soul, your heart, your gut, whatever you want to call it, is saying, yeah, this is what I'm meant to be doing. When you feel the energy drop, it's telling you I shouldn't be doing this. And I think the more intuitive we become, the better we become in our careers as artists. I think developing the skill of intuition is such a massive part of what you do as an actor, isn't it?
mm, absolutely. And I
Yeah.
think, you listen to your instincts a lot more, and then that sort of leads you into the realm of like, oh, I wasn't expecting that, but I just follow my instinct, and it's like, that's great. And you have those moments in life where you sort of at first go, well, this is kind of weird and lovely, but then you then you sort of know, okay, no, this is actually quite good. This is good. I'm on the right track here. It's fantastic.
Yeah. You're
Uh,
absolutely right. I'd love to speak into that a little bit. So
yeah, of
in
course.
as a as an artist, we get into flow state, right?
Hmm.
Flow state is exactly the same brainwave state as hypnosis.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So there are four main brainwave states. There's other stuff, but basically the main four, excuse me, is beta, alpha,
Mhm.
theta, and delta.
Okay.
Now, delta is sleep. So when we do hypnosis, we don't necessarily go as deep as that because although some clients do go very deep and you can drop into delta but still be in a waking state, there's different research finding out different things. But basically, in a nutshell, delta is sleep. Beta is conscious, aware, awake, exactly as we are right now. So between those two is alpha and theta.
Mhm.
That's where you're daydreaming. That's where when you go for a drive and you're staring at the road and you get there and think, oh, that felt like half an hour for a 5 hour journey. That's called time distortion. That happens when your brain is in alpha or theta.
Mhm.
When you go deeper and deeper into theta, that's where quite often your best creative ideas come up. Well, in any of that wedge, alpha down to theta, that's when your brain has the best. Basically, in a nutshell, the conscious part of your brain, the blah blah blah, as I call them, the limiting factors
Mhm.
tend to just drift off into the background so that you can access the deeper part of your subconscious mind, your unconscious. When you're in that state, you the conscious part, the blah blah blah, doesn't get in the way. It doesn't put a roadblock in front of your creative process. And so that's why when you drop into a deeply relaxed state and then you rehearse or then you practice, quite often you have these moments, these it's as if something comes through you that isn't you
Mhm.
in your creative. An instinct comes out to do this in this scene or to say the line in that way that you'd never thought of before because your conscious mind isn't getting in the way.
Mhm.
That was a bit rambly, but does that make sense?
No, it's great. No, don't ever worry about explain as much detail as you want. It's really fascinating. And
Oh, good. I love to talk about
yes,
it.
yes. I mean, I want you to talk about it. Great. Every detail that you want to. This is what today's all about. Yeah, we talked a lot about at the careers event that's at just here on campus actually, where I sort of met you for the first time. It was very lovely to talk to you about the. I suppose you had like a variety of subjects. You were approached by actors, MTs, musical theatre people, acting musicians, and just people just in general. I think who wanted to know a bit more about the connections and the relationship between actors and mental health and things like that. I think this brings me to one of the questions we talked about, which was what are some of the like frequently asked questions of yourself when you specifically talk to actors, and how do you answer those questions?
Well, one of the questions is, and this one makes me chuckle a little bit. People say, "Can you hypnotize me?" And I always say, well, that's a bit like saying, can you hug me? I mean, yeah, of course I can. Do you want me to? I think there's this myth that hypnosis is something where you're not fully in control, but you are fully in control during hypnosis.
Yeah.
So there's no, it's not mind control. And stage hypnosis has a heck of a lot to answer for
Mm.
in terms of the way they portray hypnosis as this thing that is to make people, do silly things. It's simply not the case. You're not going to do anything that you wouldn't do consciously. Hypnosis does reduce inhibition, but it's still only going to allow you to do what you would do. You could argue it's completely different from drinking alcohol, but you could argue that alcohol reduces inhibition and allows you to do things you might not normally do. And having said that, hypnosis is very, very different. I shouldn't even compare it because it's completely different, because hypnosis is a powerfully empowering experience to be in, because everyone can access it. Basically, coming back to the question, you can go into hypnosis if you choose, whenever you want. The more you do it, the better you get at it. So now I have the ability, because I go into hypnosis, into trance when I'm with my clients, because then I'm tuning into them, and that's when I get my best instincts as well. So I've learned how to just close my eyes, take a couple of deep breaths, and start to drop in very, very quickly. But the first time someone has a go at hypnosis, they might find that they go into a light hypnosis, and that's fine, because they're still going to get the results that they want. So when someone says, am I hypnotizable? I'll say, well, first of all, yes, because we all go into it repeatedly throughout our day. Every time we watch TV, every time we stare out the window and daydream, every time we're having a chat now, you could argue that that's a form of trance, because we're focused on something. But the other thing I'll say when someone, yeah, exactly, when someone asks, am I hypnotizable, is I'll also say, well, you don't actually need to go into a deep hypnosis to have change, because I'm using language to guide. I'm always using language to guide your subconscious mind to the results that you want anyway. Some people call it conversational hypnosis. It's not possible to get someone to do or say or think anything they don't want to do, but it's the difference between me saying to you, try and relax, which is not going to work, because the word try means to fail, and me saying to you, I wonder how you'd feel if you could relax right now. So I'm using language to guide your subconscious mind into thinking, oh, I wonder how it would feel if I could relax right now. And that immediately makes you go, oh, I feel more relaxed. So that's how I use language in the sessions. I wonder how amazing you'll feel when you can stand on stage feeling confident now. So I put a now at the end of a sentence. Yeah, I've just got you to imagine standing on stage feeling confident now. So I'm always, in the hypnosis sessions that I do, I'm constantly directing you to where you want to be going. So it's not the actual deepening into relaxation and the change work is sometimes just a formality, because we've already done the change work in the conversation. Sometimes the conversation is short and I'll say, right, let's just dive in and do the whole session on going into a deeply relaxed state, and we'll do the work in there. Because when you're in hypnosis, your subconscious mind, basically, we don't give a great deal of weight to what the conscious mind thinks. We do go into what the subconscious mind has got to say about it as well. So that's where going into hypnosis, a deeper hypnosis, and doing the change work is really, really powerful as well. So there are different ways that one can use hypnosis to create change, positive change.
Yeah, that's great. I remember us talking about the kind of, what's the word? Not the kind of like the stereotypical image of hypnotherapy, and how that is just a load of nonsense.
A bit of nonsense.
If anyone watching on YouTube now is just, like you see that.
Well, the argument actually is, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There are two things there. One is this kind of idea of that I'm in control and all that nonsense, BS. But at the same time, the swinging watch actually can work.
No.
You're never gonna catch me using it, because
Okay.
I think it would give me a lack of credibility, because although it can work, language is, I find language is far more powerful, because and language is, I think, a more nuanced way, because when I'm talking someone into a relaxed state, whether it's a light state or a deep state, I'm constantly using language to get them to focus on the feelings that they want to have, and also the knowledge that they can change. So I'm always making suggestions with language as they deepen into relaxation. But a swinging watch can work, because when you watch something like that that's repeated, it has a hypnotic quality. The same with those little spinny things that you hold and spin round.
Mm.
That can create a state of hypnosis. But I'm not going to use that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Can you imagine me doing a deeply relaxing session going, look at this spinny thing? It's just
No,
not going to go there.
that's
But
not
yeah.
good. You see that on The Simpsons and stuff, and it's just like this thing, and you see it in the character's eyes, and then it just.
Oh, I don't even talk about that stuff to my clients. I don't even bring it up as an image, because I want people to know that it's safe
Mm,
and that you are always in control.
yeah.
Because the thing is, if I tried, let's face it, if I tried to hypnotize you to turn your hair blue, like mine, and if you were, even if you were in a deep, deep hypnosis, you would probably either open your eyes and look at me and say, no, or you keep your eyes closed because you're deeply relaxed and just reject the suggestion. I just would let it just wash past you.
Yeah.
It's not what I want. So I couldn't hypnotize you to rob a bank. Otherwise, all hypnotherapists would be billionaires.
When,
Well, actually, we wouldn't, because we all have very good morals, or at least I do. So there's always integrity. And this
most,
is the thing. Say that again?
most of us anyway.
Most of us. Yeah, I mean, we're very much trained that from the beginning that everything is done with integrity.
Yeah.
Everything is only ever for someone's highest and greatest good. So, and there are some trainings which actually make the suggestion to someone that you will not learn at this if you have any intentions that are not good.
Yeah.
You will only get success if everything is for the highest and greatest good. So it's every single hypnotherapy training I've done, that's been one of the first things that people have talked about, is that we're here to create positive change in the world.
Mm.
And that's where, can you imagine, I'm using the hypnotic language, can you imagine if every single person in the world recognized that hypnotherapy is a powerful way of changing that old anxiety, those old anxious habits, into something beneficial?
Mm.
So many more people would get change. So many people would use it as a tool to heal their anxiety, to do the deeper change work.
Mm.
That's a soapbox I could stand on for a very long time. Hollywood and stage hypnosis really bring about a very different mentality about hypnosis that's just simply not helpful to people who really want to heal things.
Yeah. That's so interesting, because it's almost like I'm just getting this image now of it's like I'm getting an image, it's coming to me, and of this sort of way that, and I'm certainly guilty of this, is that we sort of go, because I tried for drama school a few times before I got in, and it's almost like I remember getting on the train one morning to go to GSA, and thinking to myself, okay, well, and I was going over my lines in my head, which, by the way, before an audition, don't do that. And
subconscious mind knows it all. It's all in there.
yeah, it knows. But then again, it was like this self-sabotage of like, okay, look, okay, so this line after this one, is it that one? And it's like, and then it all just like,
Yeah.
I've definitely done that not many times, but definitely before. And it's almost like you've got to just trust your ability, your mind, and your body as well, because that's where the emotions are kept.
Always. Yeah.
Just saying that, okay, you've done the work, you know the lines, and just carry on. And that's a massive lesson I've learned this year, I think.
Yeah.
I think like drama school in some ways is like a natural, you're in a natural kind of hypnotized world of like, to say, okay, look, all the stuff that you had before you came here, these feelings of insecurity or you're not good
Mhm.
enough, etc. Well, first of all, you're here. You've got into
Exactly.
drama school, so that is a big step to say, okay, yes, you are good enough. And
Yes.
now it's all about taking that potential to the next step. And you just got to trust yourself and say,
Yeah.
okay, yes, I've got some dirty laundry to air, to chuck out. I've got some stuff in the garage, in my garage of my stomach or stuff like that. I've got to
Yeah.
get out. There's a lot of dust. There's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff to clear out. But you've got to get your hands dirty and just go in and say, okay, we just got to get rid of all this stuff and just go, all right, you are strong enough to, to deal with that. You're strong enough to go through all that. And
Yeah.
on the other side, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years in some people's cases, to know that it's okay, and everything that you thought you felt
Yeah.
weighing you down, you can get rid of, and that is a positive thing
Um,
to do.
it's such a, yeah. Oh my gosh, it's such a powerful thing. And do you know what? There are so many different threads of things we could chat about based on just what you've just said.
Yeah.
But the language of the subconscious or unconscious, we use those words interchangeably. The language of your unconscious mind is analogy, metaphor, storytelling, feelings, textures, colors, sounds, imagery. Some people are visual, some people are auditory, some people focus on the feel. Everyone's different in how they process the information. But the language of your unconscious mind is storytelling, analogy, and metaphor. And so when you gave me a brilliant metaphor just then of this idea of a garage of all this junk, what I would do if we were working together in a one-to-one
Mm.
is I would talk you into, well, I wouldn't even need to talk you into relaxation because you're simply by imagining the garage, you're halfway, your brain's there anyway. I'd probably say close your eyes, we'll drop down into a little bit of relaxation and then say, and then imagine the baggage in the garage. Actually, we would process it together. And sometimes that involves giving the baggage back to someone who may have given it to you, always with love and kindness and forgiveness, if that's appropriate. But basically, the baggage we carry is not ours to carry. Were you were born pure and full of joy and curiosity and playfulness and creativity. Every human on this planet is creative. This idea that I'm not creative and this person, I am, is absolute nonsense. We are all innately creative. But you look at how children play,
Yeah.
they all are. And then some teacher comes along and gives them a belief system, also known as BS,
Yeah.
that a belief system that, oh, you're the musical one, you're not a dancer, or you can't sing mime at the back of the choir. And they give you a belief system baggage. I know, right? It says resonates. That resonates with so many people.
Oh,
This
it's resonating
baggage.
right now.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And we can do an exercise around that if you like in a moment.
Mm.
So imagine, all this kind of baggage that's been caked on you. Like you're born this amazing creative being, and all this baggage has been stuck on you or filling the garage. So I would use your metaphor. And that is stuff that you will have taken on. So as a child, before the age of about 7, some people say 9, different research says different things, but let's say around up to the age of 7 or 8, your mind hasn't developed the conscious, the awake, aware, conscious part of the brain yet that is able to say, oh, that teacher's having a bad day, that's their baggage, not mine.
Mm.
When you're 6 years old, your brain hasn't developed enough to do that. So if a teacher says, oh, you can't sing, your 6-year-old you goes, oh, I can't sing.
Mm.
Now, not every 6-year-old. Some 6-year-old goes, huh, screw you, I can. I'm going to anyway. And so different people will take on different suggestions. Some people won't take them on, but they'll take other suggestions on instead. When you're when you're a child, your brain is open to so many more suggestions that's what creates the neural pathways. Now, the great thing about hypnosis is that we can put the roadblock up and we can redivert those pathways
Mm.
by healing, and a lot of hypnotherapy is healing the inner child.
Yeah.
So if we were working one together, what questions I would ask you would be something like, I wonder if you can imagine when you've cleared the garage of all that baggage, what would you put in that garage now? What would you have in there instead?
The right things. I put what I actually want in that garage, and
Yeah, what would that be?
Oh, it's be a lot of Shakespeare, that's for sure.
Oof, yeah.
Yes,
And for emotions as well, like confidence, strength. You talked about strength.
yeah, strength. Yeah, Shakespeare for sure. Art stuff, and I just think I'd fill it up with what I love, which is just, and if this doesn't sound too narcissistic or anything, uh, me, because I think a lot of things along my journey so far is that I've been taking on a lot of other people, and like as you were saying just now, you know,
Yeah.
I had a teacher in school who was just, oh, she was just not worth a dirt off your shoes. She was just horrible. And yeah, she put me in that place of like, I didn't think I was good enough or anything, like, because like she had her favorites. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say her name, Mrs. Keane. Uh, and if she's listening to this, you. and but,
But wait, I'm going to stop you right there. So the
yeah,
hypnotherapist in me wants to stop that pathway in its tracks
yeah,
because you
yeah,
feel how you're tempted to talk about the old story. Now, my job is to listen enough to understand the subconscious programming that you got from Mrs. King. But then I would say we talk just about enough for me to get a really good sense of what you're ready to release now. And then I'd say, right, stop. How do you want to feel instead? So what do you want to put in the garage? You want to put your creative abilities. You want to put some Shakespeare in there. You want to fill the garage with strength.
mm.
And I don't know why, but I want to say curiosity as an artist. You didn't give me that word, but
Curiosity is definitely one of them. Self-love is another one,
but
and
that's huge.
yeah, which I think I've come on a lot stronger with over the last few years.
Good, well
Uh,
done.
yeah, and just like this feeling now is that I feel like, and this is probably, yeah, fuck it, I'm just gonna say it. Uh, I think this feeling of we're all on a journey, and I thought that if I felt weak or if I felt vulnerable, that meant that I was weak in general, which now I've realized is not true in the slightest. It's just, and I would, I'd sometimes look at other people and just think, God, they look so secure in themselves, and they're so happy, they're so lively all the time. And actually, if I have to take a very famous example of someone who I love dearly, Mr. Robin Williams, who passed away, nearly 10 years ago now.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah, well, it's 8 years this year, and then in a couple of years it'll be 10. So it's like, where's that all that time gone? But yeah, but someone who I looked at and thought, God, he must have the best life. He's so happy. He's got a great wife. He's got all the money in the world. He must be just absolutely loving it. And then when all this stuff came out after he died, like he suffered from depression most of his life, and he had a medical condition just before he died, something to do with his brain, and it's just like, and I'm thinking, and now I watch interviews, and I still love him tremendously, and he's still a great hero of mine. But sometimes I look at interviews of him now. One
Yeah.
very famous one of Michael Parkinson, which he did back in 2000, I think, or probably 2002, whatever it was, early 20th century. And I look at him and I think he's so happy, but he's giddy all the time. We all know what he's like, but I kind of feel like that was his way of kind of covering up what was really going on. And
Absolutely.
some people are just very good at covering up, which I think is a very, very, very unhealthy thing to do. And
Mm.
yeah, and to be frank in this episode, I think what people need to talk about, I'm not gonna, like you said earlier, I'm not, you can't force it on anyone, of course, but I still think if something's bothering you, just talk to someone about it. You like yourself, a family member, a friend you can trust,
Yeah.
and just,
I
yeah.
think you put that so well. I personally think that talking about it gives it a voice. It airs it. It makes you feel better in the moment. It makes you feel better because you've acknowledged it. You've acknowledged. So so much of our work is about our inner child, right? This little us who's inside, wanting us to basically be free and to be playful and be creative and to be loved and to be safe.
Hmm.
We have this innate need to feel safe and heard and seen. And I can't remember the hierarchy of needs, but those are pretty early on in the hierarchy of needs to feel safe, to feel heard, and feel seen. So speaking into it is really important. You're so right. Speak about it. But I'm also inclined to say, do give it a voice, do talk about it, but also find ways to allow the change to happen as well. Because if I went round, and I've done this and I still have to work at this, which is why I will continue having hypnotherapy probably for the rest of my life, because life happens, stuff comes up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm growth mindset rather than fixed mindset. And I will always recognize that I always have plenty of growth to do. That's what I'm here on this planet for. So my my advice is find ways to talk about it and give it a voice and acknowledge it and let it feel seen and heard, but then also be aware that continuing to talk about the problem again and again and again and again only makes it more of a problem. So I used to have a difficult situation with a neighbour in a previous house I lived in, who in hindsight was I personally think, having grown up with someone who had severe mental health problems, this person displayed very, very similar traits of aggression, big, bad stuff. And that triggered me. It really triggered me. And I was grateful for that opportunity to recognize that I had to do some deeper inner work. So I recognized that his aggression made me realize that I needed to do some more change work. I've gone off on a beautiful ADHD style tangent, which happens now and then. So we're talking about the problem. That's right. So I always make a suggestion to my subconscious mind that if a thought goes away, it always comes back. It always does.
It does, yeah.
So I started, going back to that original thought, I started in that moment living in the building with this particularly aggressive neighbor. I started to strengthen the neural pathways in my brain that I didn't want by continuing to talk about how stressful it was. And I made myself 100 times more stressed than I needed to be, because I kept wording in my head the letter I was going to write to his partner about how incredibly stressful it is living in an environment with someone who is clearly got problems, and is causing a lot of distress for the people around us. And even talking about it now, the other part of me is going, stop, come on now, you've changed that now, you've healed from what you needed to heal, it triggered you, you healed that, move on. So but the other sort of the old part of me is wanting to talk about, but if I talk about the stress too much, all I do is make those neurological pathways in my brain stronger. Neurons that fire together wire together. I don't know if you've heard that phrase. It's a well-known phrase in the hypnotherapy and NLP world. NLP is neuro-linguistic programming, which is taken from the principles of hypnotherapy and other stuff. Anyway, neurons that wire together, fire together. If you look at videos of neurons sticking together, they literally kind of go and they create a pathway in the brain. Let's say, for example, I pick up an apple and I eat it and the inside of it's moldy. I'm going to yuck, throw that away. That's created a teeny tiny little neural pathway in my brain. Oh, just be aware next time you pick up an apple. So I pick up an apple, I don't know, a day later or an hour later, and I eat it. And if that apple is also moldy on the inside, that neural pathway will have got stronger in my brain. I will have gone, oh, yuck, another one. Now, if that happens a couple of times, 3 or 4 times, I'm going to have an association with picking up an apple. That's created a neurological pathway in my brain. And this is how phobias develop. The subconscious mind is trying to protect me from picking up a dodgy piece of food and eating it, because my subconscious mind's primary objective is to keep me alive. Of course, a moldy apple's not going to kill me. This is just an example.
Yeah.
But that's how a neurological pathway can form. If something particularly traumatic happens, like a car accident, then a neural pathway, the brain creates those neural pathways super fast. And hypnotherapy is one of the most powerful ways of changing the pathway. You can't undo a pathway, but you can put up a roadblock and redivert onto a new pathway, which starts as a dirt path with just a few neurons, but over time, with repetition, can become a 6-lane motorway. And that becomes more interesting, more powerful, more nice, and more attractive for the brain than the old neural pathway, which has been blocked off anyway. So that's the science behind what we're doing. So on the surface, it might seem that we're talking about healing the inner child and light and love and unicorns and rainbows and all the metaphor and analogy in the world. But what we're actually doing is we're rewiring the brain. And and I personally think on a deep spiritual level, we're doing some deeper spiritual healing as well. But science is showing us that these things, the spiritual and the scientific, are starting to research is starting to bring those two together, in my opinion.
Mm.
So anyway, that was that. There are 1,000 tangents we could go off from that.
Yeah.
But with that in mind, how can you start to steer your brain to the results that you want
Mm.
if something like an anxious thought has been coming up? And the best way to do it is if you talk to yourself about, the self-talk. For example, I'm not good enough. I'll never be good enough. I don't deserve to be here. One of the best things you can do is actually say, right, cancel that, cancel, cancel, cancel. Now, if you say, I love myself, I deserve to be here, part of your subconscious mind might go, well, you don't yet though, do you? Sometimes it might go, yes, I do. Either way, you have to give yourself a sentence that is going to be appealing to your subconscious mind. For example, the thought pattern of, oh, I'm stressed, or oh, I'm not enough. Say cancel that, cancel, cancel, cancel. Every day I'm becoming more relaxed, or every day I love myself more and more,
Mm.
or I give myself permission to love myself. So you can start to redirect the neural pathways to ones that you want to have, and then give it a few repetitions, days, hours, days, weeks. Saying phrases such as I love myself become way more achievable.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, massively. And please forgive me for this pun, but I felt hypnotized just listening to you just now. And
I've noticed that my voice does have that effect. So anyone who's driving, turn this off and listen when you've stopped. Yes, but one of the reasons is every time somebody tells a story, a person is in hypnosis. That's why we do theatre.
yeah,
Storytelling is incredibly powerful.
yes, it really is.
Yeah, and that's why the Bible is full of parables. That's why Aesop's fables are so powerful. That's why we love the hero's journey, which you'll see in most pieces of art, some form of the hero's journey.
Yeah, I remember seeing Andrew Scott do something a few years ago at the Old Vic. It was a one-man show, so it was kind of like, well, it was only him on stage, but one-man shows are particularly hard to sort of pull off in a way to sort of keep you entertained the whole time.
Yeah.
Some people do it pretty bloody well, and he did it very, very well. There was a show called Sea Wall by Simon Stevens. So anyone who wants to read it or wants to see it, please just go read it. It's online. It's just fantastic. And the story's all about a guy called Alex, and he's just telling his story about a trip to France. I won't spoil it for anything, but it went tragically and horribly wrong. And it's so beautifully written, and I couldn't help but just listen to every single thing that he was saying. But what was really irritating about that, was it really? I don't know. But what was really annoying about it was the fact that at one beautiful moment, about 3 rows back, someone's phone went off, and
Yeah.
he was in the middle of a monologue, of the monologue, and just kind of just stood there and just waited and waited and waited till eventually this person, I'm not going to say a bad word because I'm not going to get into that one, but this said individual whose phone was going off was eventually sorted it out, and he just carried on. And but for some reason, even throughout that, there was still a quality of him just standing there
Yeah.
and going, I'm just going to wait for you, just going to wait for you. And then and then the rest of the show was just hypnotizing as well. And
What a masterclass in professionalism.
yeah,
So he held the space.
yeah, I think it looked like he come to an agreement that if a phone does go off, he's not going to try and speak over it or anything, because that just creates noise.
Yeah, and it's stressful and yeah.
So he just stood there and just waited.
Yeah.
Okay, can I continue now? Okay, thank you very much. And
Yeah.
carried on, and there's a lovely quality to that, I
It's
think.
beautiful. Yeah. And in doing so, he will have gained he will have clearly already had approval from the audience, but he will have gained an extra level of approval because he didn't make it about himself. He didn't suddenly switch off and go, "Can you turn that phone off?" He didn't make it about himself.
Mm.
Everything is about the performance. But at the same time, he had enough self-worth to to say, "I'm going to stay here until this distraction's over." And I think it takes a lot of confidence and self-worth to do that. So knowledge of your worth. I'm worthy of being here and I'm worthy of being heard. So I'm going to wait till that disturbance calms down before I get on with it. And that kind of brings us full circle to the conversation at the beginning, doesn't it? About knowing your worth, which is not the same as arrogance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about
Ooh,
knowing your worth and what you deserve and everything. I think,
absolutely.
yeah, I think this is great that we're talking about all this today, and I think it's important to share just stuff that we keep inside. And I think right now, I'm going to throw this out there. Why not?
Mm.
Uh, the biggest thing for me is just, and I've realized it, is that there's this quote, and I can't remember who said it. Jay Shetty talks about it. You know Jay Shetty?
Oh, love him. Yeah.
That's the guy. Uh, he quoted this from someone. I think it's from an old guru or something like that. I'll have to Google it later. And the quote was, "I'm not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am. I am what you think I am." And I think I've carried that most of my life.
Ah,
So all my stuff, which, I'm like you said earlier, constantly improving. As Luke Combs says in one of his songs, I'm a constant work in progress. And
cool.
just this feeling of like, don't let constructs of other people and let other people's thoughts or your own perception of what other people's thoughts are
That's all belief systems.
affect your reality. Yeah, don't let any BS affect your inner system. And it's like, yeah,
Wow.
like,
So liberating.
even now, I'll be honest with you, even now I'm just like, oh my God.
What a relief to take that. You're holding your clothing as a feeling of almost like a heavy weight of a cloak that isn't yours that you've just taken off.
Yeah.
It's not your circus, not your monkeys. When someone else has an opinion about you, I love that phrase. Yeah. When someone else has an opinion about you, it really is nothing to do with you. It's all to do with their BS, their belief systems, their filters through which they see the world.
Yeah.
That everyone has filters through which they see something. And if you have an extra layer of filters of you perceiving yourself based on how you think they're perceiving you, then that's all these messy filters. None of it's truth, none of it's reality. It's all based on our various perceptions of the world.
Mm.
If I look at a spider on the floor, my innate, well, that's the thing. Some people might have that reaction. I'm going to go, unless it's something dangerous, then fine, but we're in the UK. That spiders, at worst, an annoying bite that's like a bee sting is probably the worst possible thing that can happen.
Thankfully.
But I've grown up with a kind of mother, and father probably as well, but mostly mum, who would look at a spider and go, "Oh, bless it, we need to put that outside." Would scoop it up and out the window it would go, and that was it. No drama.
Yeah.
Whereas some people I know, and I've worked on this with clients before I started to focus more on hypnosis for artists. I worked with clients with phobias of wasps and spiders, and oh my gosh, so many people with phobias of things that you just wouldn't think would be a thing, but for someone out there it is, which is
Mm.
why I think everyone has to forgive themselves for their subconscious responses. If a child, let's say a 3-year-old child, sees a spider on the floor and a parent or a caregiver or a sibling goes, "Don't touch it, it's gonna kill you," or "It's scary, it's a scary thing." Little 3-year-old you has just developed a neural pathway, has just downloaded an app onto their brain that is the Be Scared of Spiders app.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm quoting a brilliant hypnotist called Karen Hand,
Mhm.
who mentors. She's given me some sessions. She's brilliant. She talks a lot about the apps that we're born with the basics, and
Mhm.
we download the apps as we grow up. The Learn How to Walk app, the Balance app, the we're born with the How to Swallow Food app. Hopefully, most babies are.
Mhm.
We're born with the crying, singing, yelling, screaming app. We might download the app that says you shouldn't cry and scream and yell, and that's where hypnotherapy comes in
Mm.
to either update that app or change it so that you can feel comfortable crying, yelling, screaming in your rehearsal on stage. But going back to the baby on, or the 3-year-old that has downloaded that app, the next time they see a spider, this 3-year-old is probably going to go, scary thing, because they've been told it is. And then that's going to strengthen the neural pathway in their brain.
Mm.
3 or 4, 5, 6 times, if this happens, it becomes a thing. Now, there might be another baby, or toddler, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, whose parent goes, scary thing,
Mm.
but it just doesn't turn into a pathway for them.
Yeah.
And they are probably going to go along in life absolutely fine without any fear of spiders. So you can't necessarily guarantee what thing lands for what person, because there are so many factors that influence the filters that we develop. But this initial child will have grown up with this sort of thing about spiders, and that's where we do hypnosis. So we actually heal or change the subconscious belief system around the app so they can have a new set of BS, which is more empowering for them.
Mm. Yeah, I tell you, another one is like, I want to give your thoughts on perfectionism in a way, and I think that really, I've
Yeah,
met, I've met a few people in my time who are really, really particular. You know, that everything's got to be perfect. Like perfection exists. So I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
but it doesn't. You know, we can have something that's utterly fantastic, but
yeah,
I think that comes from a place of what is perfect, the same place of what is normal in a
yeah.
way, and
To be honest, I personally believe we are perfect in our imperfections.
mm,
I've learned to love my imperfections as much as I love the things that I have always liked about myself.
mm,
I've learned to love the grey hairs. Well, actually, I've learned to dye them blue, but but I love the grey hairs. I've learned to love the wrinkles. I've learned to love the my the way my slightly wacky ADHD brain works. I've learned to love those things, but there was a time when I hated them. But with all this inner work that I've done, I've realized that hating those things about myself was only holding me back.
mm,
But I've also learned that to love these things about myself, but also recognize that I'm a work in progress and I've got a heck of a lot of things that I still want to improve on, but
yeah,
it's now not coming from an inner perfectionist need for validation, or I've got to do this or I won't be good enough. It's now coming from a genuine curiosity and desire to better myself, because the more I better myself, the more I can help other people
mm,
with their journeys. But this inner perfectionism piece is really interesting, because I did, with the swing band, I do it because I love making music, I love singing, I love leading a band, I love the challenges that it gives me as an artist, as well as a coach and hypnotherapist. But there was a time when I started the band when I was doing it for approval. I was doing it for validation, and my perfectionism
yeah,
was because I wanted people to love what I did. I wanted them to accept me. And every gig we did, I wanted people to love it and say, oh, wow, you're such an amazing singer, or wow, aren't you so good?
mm,
And after doing a lot of inner child work and negotiating with my inner perfectionist, because we can have a conversation with that part of you
mm,
and find out why it's being like that,
mm,
what beliefs it has, what it's trying to help with. In some cases, it's to protect you from something, or to keep you safe by limiting you, or whatever it is. We work with that part and find out what it needs. Once I did that inner work, and I realised that this need for approval, actually, I have learned to approve of myself
mm,
rather than relying on the approval of my audience.
mm,
What I found is that the next time I got on stage to sing with my band, there was one number that I screwed up the copies of a couple of tracks for this particular gig, handed them out to the musicians. I hadn't checked the chords properly. One of the songs was completely in the wrong key. I'd rehearsed it in a key that I usually sing it in. The band had the wrong copies, and I sang the whole of the first, the head, which is the AABA, the form of the jazz song,
yeah.
completely off key. I
Uh-oh.
just made the tune up. I came in, I thought, I'm not in the right key. I kind of looked at the musicians and they kind of went, and did miss the Saturday dance. It's that one. Da 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 ba ba doo 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 doo. Great song. Dancers love dancing to it because we play for swing Lindy Hop dancers. And I couldn't find my note. I couldn't find my key center. I just made couldn't be there without you. Don't get around much anymore. I just made the whole thing up, and it was creative to say the least. And I got some funny looks from the band members going, "What are you doing?" I don't know. And it was funny. It was fun.
Oh yeah.
We because I wasn't in a I need approval. My brain didn't go into that beta level, beta brainwave state, or even worse, into that fight, flight, freeze response. I stayed in a relaxed in the zone and I got playful. I got curious. And the reason I did that is because I'd done the inner work on not needing approval from my audience.
Mm.
So some people might say, well, why would you take away the or change the part of you that cares about your audience liking what you do? And my answer to that is no, 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 you don't not care. You care deeply about giving them a gift,
Yeah.
but it takes away the stress. It takes away the kind of perfectionism that's damaging, and it then creates space for a new kind of healthy. I don't even want to use the word perfectionism. A healthy curiosity as to how we can make this better, because it's no longer a limitation, it's a curiosity, it's an energy of curiosity and playfulness, and that creates better art in my experience. Fear and worry and perfectionism just creates limitation. But when we deal with the need for approval, we no longer need approval. Then you could be in an energy of creativity and joy and playfulness, and that's where you get your best stuff.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, that totally. Yeah. No, no, I second that actually. I think in retrospect, I think when I started to sort of be an actor, or say I want to be an actor, I think I was doing it for approval in a way. And so someone would give me a compliment and I'd be like, great, but
Yeah.
but I've learned to give that compliment now to myself in a way, and
Yeah.
feel good about it as well, because otherwise I was living off the affection of others to try and build me up, and that was not a good thing. And I've learned now and funny enough, before we came on today, we were talking about Widows, my public show here, and
Oh yeah.
and in light of the training here, it's the first time I've walked off stage and just thought to myself, do you know what? I don't care how the audience received it, whether they thought I was good, bad, or indifferent, but I personally was happy with what I did. You know, I did the research.
That's everything.
I watched some stuff. I worked with Matthew, the director. I did the best job I possibly could, and that's all I could. That's all I can do. Obviously, if we had like a 6 month run of that play, I remember saying to Matt before the end of the run, I mean, we only did 4 performances, but I was thinking, God, I want to do 8 shows. I want to do a working week where we do Monday to Saturday, 2 shows on Wednesday, 2 shows on Saturday. I want to go deeper with this character. I want to keep going further with it. But I think for those 4 shows, I walked off and I said, you know what, I'm happy with what I did there, and I'm
Yeah.
not looking to other people to build me back up. And it's funny because I was thinking about this the other day about how we kind of, and this is something Gary Barlow mentioned in an interview he did as well, because he went through a phrase of like, take that, finished, and I know they're back and better than ever now, but you know, the band broke up, Robbie went off into the sunset, and just and he went through a period of about 10 years where said he was depressed, gained a lot of weight, he just wasn't happy, and because of all, but again, living on the outside, because all the media were just like little vipers on him, just saying, oh, Robbie's so much better than you, you're nothing, you're whatever, all those horrible things you can say to someone, a bit like the teacher in the playground, as you were saying earlier.
Right. Yeah.
And I've lost my train of thought. It'll come back, hang on.
It always does.
Always
Robbie
does.
Williams
Robbie
and
Williams,
Gary
nice.
Barlow.
Oh, here we go, a work in action in progress, here we go. It's coming back, bear with me.
It does.
And yeah, so he was doing that, and Oh yeah, here, there it is. I've got it back. And so he realized that at the time when he went through it, he went through that dark period, and then he sort of got the band back together. And like I said, they're storming it again. But he said, after I sort of got to that nice place, the place where I am now, you know, he lost the weight, he goes to the gym, he's happy, you know, he eats better. He looks back on that time and thinks, well, at the time, I remember thinking, oh, I'm okay, you know, I'm still getting through each day and stuff like that. I'm not too bad. But then but then in retrospect and hindsight, he thinks, oh, actually, I wasn't great back then.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I'll be honest to say, I look back on my life sometimes and think, okay, at the time, I remember thinking, oh, I'm okay. But then I look back and think, oh, my mindset was really not where it should have been. It wasn't great at all. And
Then you could argue,
yeah,
that your mindset was exactly where it needed to be in order for you to
possibly.
springboard to where you were meant to go.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I like to think of it that way, actually. That was where I was meant to be. And, you know, as so many famous people say now, you know, I think Paul Simon, for example, says, someone asked him, would you go back and change anything that happened in the past? He said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Every mistake, every time I made a fool out of myself, every time I did something wrong, led to me actually correcting that and doing the right thing. And so, as that old phrase, it makes you the person you are today. And yeah, and believe you me, I've still got plenty of living left to do, you know, and
Oh gosh, yeah.
and I've still got more stuff to do. But
Never done.
no, never.
Never done with a piece of Shakespeare or a song.
No,
Always something new you can find. Always. We're never done with our learning, our growth. I'm making mistakes on a daily basis.
oh yeah,
You know?
I'm I'm not, I like to say I'm in a much better place now, but I'll always have lessons to learn. Every one of us on this freaking planet
Yeah.
we're going to go through life and constantly keep learning about things, which is just great.
That,
Yeah.
that
Sorry.
brings us to that conversation, that piece about arrogance we were saying at the very beginning, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That, I think arrogance is the assumption that you have nothing to learn. That's ego. But I think it's perfectly okay to say, yeah, I'm good at what I do, but I still have a lot to learn.
Mm,
I'm good at what I do, but I'm not the best. No one's the best.
no.
I'm not the best band leader. I'm not the best hypnotherapist, but I am right for certain people and I am good at what I do. And I think for you as an artist to be able to say, I'm good at what I do and I love what I do and I have things to learn every single day and I'm going to continue learning. I'm flawed, but I'm still good at what I do. I think there's a lot of power in that, which is not the same as saying, I'm the best and I have nothing to learn. That is ego.
Mm, yeah.
Whereas, yeah, to acknowledge what you do and say, I'm an artist, I love doing what I do, I deserve to be heard and seen, just like every human deserves to be heard and seen. That self-worth, that self-confidence is a completely different thing.
Mm. And again, full circle, talking about Robin Williams, there's a fantastic line in Good Will Hunting when he says, just to Matt Damon? Yes, that's right.
That's right, yeah.
I nearly said Matt Smith. That's Doctor Who. And we're not anymore, actually. I'm looking forward to that series.
Yes.
It's going to be so cool. He says to Matt Damon's character, you're not perfect, sport. And guess what? This girl you're interested in, she ain't perfect either.
Not perfect.
The question is whether you're perfect for each other.
100%.
Yeah. And it's just fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's juicy stuff.
Yeah. I'm very aware. I've got all these questions here, and I've only got to one of them so far.
We can always do another podcast. We can talk some more.
Oh yeah, there'll definitely be. We could do a part two. This is great. Let's just. I know we want to show the session a bit towards the end, and I know time is slightly against us now, but this has been fantastic so far. So thank you for this.
Great.
Let's see. What's one we can sort of address now? Okay, here's a good one. I would say for anyone listening who's applying for drama school or applying for a job or whatever it is that you need that bit of boost to say, keep the faith, have a positive mindset. And this is one of the questions we talked about, is how to develop a keep the faith attitude or / mentality, and remembering your why, as Mr. Simon Sinek says.
Love Simon Sinek. Well, I think, well, first of all, remember your why. Simply remember your why. Why am I doing this? Like you said about going to the office, and your heart and soul knew that you were meant to do something that was different.
Yeah.
That office is suitable for some people and not for others,
Yeah.
arguably, but that's another conversation. Um, the why is so important. But also, even if the why isn't big, it can simply be, I want to play. I want to be playful. It doesn't have to be, I want to, be on stage accepting my Tony Award. It doesn't have to be that. It can just be, I want to explore this. So
Mm.
your why doesn't have to be huge. I think that's the first thing that's important to speak into, is that not everyone has a massive goal. My goal was just, I knew I wanted to do music and do something with it, but I didn't have a clue what. And as my life journey has unfolded, I'm getting closer and closer to my soul's purpose. But I was also supposed to go through these slightly wiggly routes in order to get here, so that I've got a wealth of experience to offer people.
Mm.
So not having a strong why, every why is a strong why, even if it's just, I want to have a go and see, because if I'm on my deathbed and I didn't have a go, I would regret that. That's a big enough why. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, when you're auditioning for any performing arts course, know that people's response to you is not actually about you. It's about them. It's about how they perceive you. It's about the filters that they have through which they see you. They might have seen 20 people who happen to be 6'2" and blonde this morning already. And
Mm.
if they don't accept you, it's not because you're not necessarily talented, it's because you are probably the next 6'2" blonde person. They need someone who's 5'3" and got dark hair or whatever. You know what I mean? It's very rarely about you. If they, and Michael Hoffman said this in that talk that we had, if you remember, if the Hollywood director, if somebody, and I always say this as well, if somebody asks you to do something, like they give you feedback, for example, okay, stop, do it this way. It's not because they don't like what you're doing. It's because they want to get playful and bring something else out of you. And I'm going to add to that, it's because they probably haven't, or it may be because they haven't yet seen in you something that they see you could bring to the work.
Mm.
So if you ever get feedback, it's you always because they know that there's something you could be bringing to it that you haven't brought to it yet. So feedback is always beneficial in that respect. Talking of feedback, going back to that phrase, there is no such thing as failure. There is only ever feedback. For every performance I've given that I felt was a failure in some way because I cracked on that high note, or I did my best in the given moment. We can only ever do our best. I didn't do the performance justice as I felt. That's useful feedback. What am I going to do differently next time? So there's never failure, there's only feedback. Every time that you don't get into drama school, that means there's something that you could need to do next in order to get further. So for goodness sake, don't just sit on your laurels for a year and hope that talent's enough to get you through, because talent is not enough. There is, I hate to say it, no, I don't hate to say it, it's a beautiful thing. There is a lot of talent in the world. What there's a lack of is people with skill and self-belief. When you build your skill set and your self-belief to match the talent and the creativity that you have to give, that's when you're on fire. That's when you'll give an amazing performance. That's when you'll walk into the room and people will see you perform and go, I want to work with this person.
Mm.
The trouble is, too many people go into an audition wanting to be liked without the self-belief. They're wanting the audition panel to do the work and give them their self-belief.
Oh yeah.
But you've got to have it in you already, so that when you do go into the audition, you basically go in going, here, I'm an open book, this is who I am, full of my messiness, my however my brain works, my creativity. I'm just going to give you what I've got.
My quirks.
And my quirks, yeah. This is what I've realised. For years, I tried to be the singing teacher or the voice teacher or the hypnotherapist that I thought people wanted me to be. And now I go, you know what? If you don't get how my brain works, I will happily put you in touch with a hypnotherapist who is the right fit for you. And if it's not me, that's fine. I'm not going to suit everyone. There are people who are going to look at me and love what I do. And I'm very blessed that there are those people. But there are also people who are going to look at me and go, oh, I can't stand her. And that's okay. There's always going to be those people. If there aren't those people, then we're all doing something wrong, because
Oh yeah.
you want to be a bit polarizing in the things you say and do.
Yeah, you can't please everyone in life. It's just not possible. Yeah.
Not
And
possible. So as a performer, as an artist, when you go in, you have to think, okay, I'm not going to please everyone. This director, this casting director, or this director might love what I've got to do, got to give, or they might hate it, and that isn't actually to do with me.
yeah, I think I grew up being a people pleaser, and
Oh yeah, same.
will you be my friend? Will you be my friend?
Like me.
I was like an excited Labrador in the middle of a park. I was just like, will you be my friend? And but yeah, but I think over the years it's just learning to adopt this mentality of just like, okay, I'm just gonna do my thing, and if you don't like it, then well,
Yeah,
it makes me happy. So if you knock yourself out doing your own thing, sunshine. So
absolutely.
uh,
Yeah. And it's nice being liked. We all like that because
of course,
our
yeah,
there's a part
that's
of
better.
us.
That's
Yeah,
better.
yes, of course. I'm not going to say walk around going, "Oh, I'm going to be an asshole and take me or leave me, like me or." That's not what I'm
No, no,
saying.
no, no, of course not. Of course
Yeah, but there's something nice about someone saying, "Oh, I loved your performance." But equally, when you can be in the mindset that if someone comes up and says that, you can go, "Oh, great." And then if someone else comes up and say, "I hated your performance," you can equally say, "Oh, great,
Thank
great, great either way."
you. Yeah.
You are the rock and the waves can crash around you, but you just stay, this is me doing what I do, doing my best,
Yeah.
taking the feedback. Yeah. So that when I did that a different swing band gig and the organizer came up to me, clearly having had a great time, and but also gave me some feedback, he said, oh my gosh, absolutely loved it. And a part of me wanted to go, yay! And then he said, but some of the feedback was you didn't play enough fast numbers. You played too many slow numbers, and the dancers weren't that. There were some of the dancers that didn't like that.
Mm.
Um, the part of me could equally have gone, oh, but I didn't. I thought, yay, great feedback. Next time I'll make sure we do more fast numbers.
Mm.
And you know what? I'll probably do that. And then half the dancers will say, oh, you played too many fast numbers. Do you know
Oh,
what I mean?
can't win. You can't win.
You can't. It's
No.
not about. But what you can do, you can win actually, because you can take the feedback from every single performance, and hone it and improve and improve and improve, until you just get better and better at what you do. So every single audition you do, you're getting better and better. And actually, that's a really powerful affirmation to give yourself before you go into an audition. Every audition I do, I get better and better, because I'm only learning, I'm only gaining feedback. When you go into an audition with that mentality, rather than the please like me mentality, you're going to have a completely different energy in the room.
Oh yeah, hugely.
Yeah, it'll take your brain out of that fight, flight, fear, freeze response
Mm.
into a more creative alpha brainwave state where you can be in flow. That's when you remember your lines more easily.
Yeah. And I think I just want to just mention also there's a great thing about like exams or auditions, or I think in any circumstance, interviews, whatever, but
Yeah.
particularly for what we do, like auditions, as soon as an audition's done, you just say like thank you and just get it out of your head. And then now just move on to the next thing.
Release
Don't
attachment.
don't dwell on things. That's what I want to say, because again, I'm very guilty of that in the past, going, oh, did I do that right? I think they liked me. But now it's just like, just do, as long as you're happy, you did the best you can. And also in contrast to that, when they say if you do a bad audition and you think, oh, I didn't do that too well, but okay, but now I know what not to do next time, and and just look forward to the next project. And
Always.
best mentality to have, I think.
You're right. You're absolutely right. After every audition and performance, I would sit down and journal. Not pages and pages, but I just write down. Okay, what did I learn from today? What did I learn from this process?
Mm.
Oh, and sometimes it's, oh, I learned that I need to remember where the spotlight is. That was a bit stupid, but sometimes sometimes it's actually, oh, yeah, I learned that I need to listen to the other actors more, rather than thinking what's my next line. I just need to listen to what they've asked me or said to me.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. That was a big thing that I learned this year. We worked with Andrew Davidson, who's also been on the show. Uh,
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, he was a lovely guy, and he just kept saying. And another thing, again, I know we're pushed for time, but I just want to just mention just one last thing. Well, actually, two last things actually. But, without we got Andrew involved, Andrew sort of talked about every day he would always start with the same vocal warm up and the same physical warm up as well. He would always say, "Walk with purpose," and he would imagine like your soul. Imagine where your solar plexus is. Imagine there's like a headlight or a car headlight. And
Yeah.
every time you walk around, you switch your headlight on and you walk around the room, and the light goes outside the room. It goes right to the edges of the universe, right to the edge, every corner, everywhere you go. And then also that stuff we did with the Grania burn as well.
Yes.
And, just keep going and going and going, and always walk with purpose, and always do that. And I'm gonna say this. I've sort of created like a little like impression of him, which I'm not gonna do now. But he always goes, engage your scene partner, engage with them all the time. And it's like every single session. And I think like if you hear things like that and you sort of think, okay, engage your scene partner. It's like, okay, great. And then you don't hear it again for like a week, and that can kind of just trickle out of your brain. But every single day for 6 weeks, he kept saying, engage your scene partner, listen to them and listen to them. And now that's ingrained up here in my brain and in my body. And it's like, always listen to the other actors, and listen to, like today, just I listened to you and I'm learning so much. And I've really enjoyed hearing everything you've said. And it's just that, listen to that. And again, there's another quote. I'm like quoting stories and quotes all over the place at the moment. But someone said, I can't remember who said it, but they said, if you don't listen to others, you're not going to learn anything. I'm getting this probably wrong, but
You are right, yeah.
but if you listen, you might learn something.
Yeah.
I've learned so much, and it's just amazing. And I keep learning so much as well, just by listening to other people and saying, so what do you think about this?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah. You're so right. It's something I need to get better at doing because I love talking. It's to actually listen. It's to listen more. Um, yeah. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, there are so many things I could speak into, but how about we do another podcast?
We have to do a part two. I think we'll have
Part
to do
two.
a part two. We'll get a session in that one as well. I think that would be really good.
Mm.
I know we've got 10 minutes, but I just want to ask you one more question just before you shoot off. And I'll
Yeah.
say, out of everything you've done in your career, acting, the swing band, music, hypnotherapy, or it could be more than one example actually, what's been an experience or experiences that you'll never forget?
Oh my gosh. I think, okay, so what's coming up is actually all those moments in my career where I release attachment to outcome.
Mhm.
So I did it for my GSA audition for the musical theatre training
Yeah.
back in the day. I did the audition. I mucked up my dance call royally. I thought I had just that was it. I think I thought, oh, sod it, and I went for a triple pirouette and messed it up.
Oh,
They
no.
saw something in that moment of, oh, I'm going to give it a go, and obviously it was enough. But I remember putting my jeans back on over my dance kit, thinking, I'm not going to go to interview today. I can just, I'm well, maybe I am. Either way, I'm just going to put my sort of muggle clothes back on as a way of saying to myself, I've released attachment to outcome. And it was that moment where I just let the cloak drop,
Mm.
let the facade drop. I was 100% myself, and then I was called into interview, and because I'd released attachment by that point, I was more myself than I would have ever been if I had that mindset of, oh, please like me. A similar thing happened in Spain a few years ago. There's a brilliant jazz musician called Gordon Webster, the Gordon Webster Band. He is incredibly well known among the swing dance world, Lindy Hop dancing, and I love to dance. So I was on this trip in Spain. I've done it for a few years. I know the organisers because my band has played for them. And they kept saying, various people who knew me from my band kept saying, oh, Katie, Gordon's playing this year. Are you going to sing with him? Are you going to sing with him? And I was going, oh gosh, it would be really nice to meet him. And it got really eggy and really awkward. And then when I did meet him, I wasn't myself. We've all been there. We're trying too hard, yeah, and it was just painfully awkward. I know, please like me. It was exactly that. Oh, God. When I think back, oh, I've had to learn to let go of the cringe. Anyway, that was that. Didn't happen. The
Yeah.
band were awesome. The next year, I showed up again on the same dance trip. Everyone there was saying, "Katie, are you gonna? Gordon's back again. Are you gonna sing with him this year?" And I always sang with the poolside to backing tracks. I hate backing tracks, but it was a bit of fun. So they said, will you sing by the pool like you usually do? And I said, oh, we'll see. If they ask me, great. I'm not gonna pressure it. I just completely let go of attachment to outcome. And something interesting happened in that moment. And when people said, "Are you going to sing with Gordon?" and people just kept coming up to me and saying that, I said, "Well, yeah, it'd be lovely, but it's not my place. They have a singer." So I said, we'll see. If it happens, it happens. And a little inner voice, something shifted internally. A little inner voice said, "Go to the hotel to eat dinner tonight. Don't go back to your apartment. Go to the hotel." So I was like, okay, I've learned to listen to that inner voice. After a particularly traumatizing skiing accident, when the inner voice, I didn't listen, and I ended up. Yes, that was interesting. That was a good lesson. I listen to the inner voice now, and I listen to it, and anyway, I went to the dining room, and the organizer came and sat next to me and said, "Do you want to sing with Gordon tonight?" And I said, "Yes, of course." I said, "Why? Why?" I said, "What's happened?" And he said, "Oh, the singer's stranded in Barcelona."
Oh.
And I said, "Hold my wine." And I went to the theatre, to the big ballroom, and I sound checked then and there because they'd just arrived. And I sang that night. And it was one of the most empowering, fun moments of my career, that aspect of my career as an artist, as a singer. It was electric on stage because I had let go of attachment to outcome. I showed up, I grabbed my iPad. Oh, that's some advice. I have an iPad, on my iPad, I have a list of all the tunes I sing in the keys that I know them in, rated from favourites, can do it off the cuff, down to, oh, I'd need a bit of rehearsal for that one.
Mhm.
And I said to him, right, here's my list. And he looked at it and went, oh, let's have a go at that one. Did it. It's jazz rather than musical theatre, so it's very much we vibe, we follow each other. He says, solo, trumpet player, go. It's that kind of thing. Anyway, I had one of the best performing experiences of my life because I was just being me. I wasn't trying to be anyone else. And I learned from that moment that when you release attachment to outcome, something a bit magical happens, something mysterious happens, serendipity happens. Lead singers get stranded in Barcelona, which is what happened. Her plane was cancelled. She did show up at set 3, and the first thing she said to me is, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much for covering for me." Like a true pro. Anyway, I gigged with them that night. We jammed together. I gigged with them the next night because they did 2 gigs, and it was epic.
Mm.
Yeah. So let go of attachment to outcome. That's when the serendipity happens.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. I just want to just mention one last thing. I mean, we're both in that same boat. I mean, that story about you meeting someone for the first time and just being like, "Hi, yeah, I'm not." And I hope I'm not taking anything away from what you just said. That's fantastic. But I just really want to just say one more thing. I remember going for my first ever drama school audition, and it was at RADA, of all places. And I was petrified. I was sitting outside. I think I said earlier about rehearsing it on the train, but I was actually outside the room going, okay, the next line is this, next line is that. I was very early in the acting journey. And I walked in and I recognized one of the people on the panel. I'd seen her on Doctor Who and stuff like that. And I just thought I had to have this, like, the nerves kind of got to me, and I walked in and they offered their hands out to shake me, and I was like, "Hello, Oliver, nice to see you, nice to see you, nice to see you. This is one of our current grads." And I turned to the lady on the panel who I recognized. To this day, I don't know why I said this. And I looked at her and I didn't say hello. I just went, "I've seen you on television."
All useful feedback, right?
And she just went, "Oh, thank you very much." And I was like, "What did you just do?"
We've all done it.
Oh my
All of us.
Yeah, that's public news now. There you go. It's out there.
I love that.
That's out on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube, and all other major platforms. Great. This is great. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to sort of
Not at all.
I didn't mean to that, but Katie, that's that's a beautiful story. Serendipity. Just say that phrase again. Serendipity and letting go of
Oh
outcome.
gosh, what was it I said? I was in the zone, I was in flow. So something
Serendipity,
about
letting go of outcome.
let go of outcome, because that's when serendipity happens.
Yeah, and that's when the magic happens as well.
Yeah, something magical happens and serendipity steps in, and because you allow things to happen rather than force them. Forcing doesn't work.
Yeah, never.
At least it might in the short term, but it's never going to help in the long run.
Yeah, and just live in the moment, and that's when it all happens for you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But be prepared.
of course. Yeah,
Have your song list on the iPad.
yeah. What was that app, by the way? Was it an app you used? What was the name?
Oh, oh no, it was just notes. And I just
Oh,
had, I do actually, if you do want sheet music on your iPad, Fourscore is a great app.
cool school. There
Just
you
pay
go.
for it, it's worth it.
Yeah, any MT for actors listening? That's your app. Um, wow, Katie, this has been so enthralling and hypnotizing.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
No,
So
no, my pleasure.
privileged.
It's been so interesting and to share so many stories and stuff like that. And I'm an open book, I don't mind all this stuff being out there because it's part of my journey. It's part of all of our journeys. And I think more people just embrace that. And then that's what helps you become stronger.
You're
And
absolutely right.
yeah, and that's why you're just a leader in your field and everything that you do. And, think, you change lives, I think, and will continue to change many more people's lives going forward. So just keep up the amazing work that you're doing. And yeah, it's been a genuine pleasure. We need to do a part two. We've still got so much stuff we need to talk about, but
Just scratch the surface. And
yeah,
I will add, I will speak one more thing into what you've just
yeah,
said,
of
is that
course, yeah,
you say that I've done the work, but I know this might sound a bit corny, but it's not me. I'm just the guide.
mm,
The work comes through me, and it's always you that does the change. I just show you how.
yeah,
Like a good director will just unlock the doors for you and make suggestions and bring stuff out of you. That's exactly what I'm doing. I'm helping you have access to your innate ability to heal your mind and to make changes that you want.
yeah.
Yeah.
And but you are the very important door which people go through in order to become the person that they want to be. And like you say, we scratched the surface. We've still got so much more we can talk about. We will talk about. There will be a part two, and which we will sort out at some point. But
We'll
yeah.
make it happen.
And yeah, once again, Casey, thank you so much for today. If you just hang on, I'll end. If hang on, I'll say goodbye to you one-to-one after I end the recording. But
Yeah.
guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. This is the Uncensored Critic podcast, and I will be back soon. And once again, Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you.